Okay. Okay. Go.
Hello, my name is Sean Bradley, and today I'm doing a presentation for Unit 39, Scriptwriting for Radio. Radio shows are designed by the media to entertain its listeners with such topics that may be appealing to them. A radio program may be a one-time production or part of a recurring series. In England, radio broadcasting was dominated by the BBC, which since the early 1920s had been developing a broad spectrum of programming, including many different genres of music and speech. As of January of 2017, this year, the total listenership for terrestrial radio in the United States was 256 million, up from 230 million. Wow, that's like 26 more. In 2005, Sirius XM Radio has a base of 30.6 million subscribers. As of 2016, American Top 40 attracts over to 20 million listeners on a weekly basis, every single week. The Rush Limbaugh Show has been the #1 commercial talk show since at least 1987, when record keeping had begun. Morning Edition and All Things Considered, both of which air on NPR, are the two most popular radio news programs. Tom Kent, who is a broadcaster in America, self-estimates his listenership, right, at over 23 million weekly listeners, all over his network's programs. See, I've got a link here from Wikipedia, so if you go onto that, it'll spell out everything. Now, England has a series of radio stations that many people listen to. Normally, when people ask for the radio station that is the most popular, what they do mean is the radio station that has the highest number of listeners. So, this always will give national stations, or stations that are based in London, and as a result ignore the smaller local radio stations, even though in many areas the most popular local radio station is a local one. Now, BBC Radio 2 is actually the top radio station with a weekly number of 15.1 million listeners. It is also important to look at the owners of these radio stations, since they have the market in commercial terms. The BBC National Radio is the top radio owner with a weekly number of 32.1 million listeners. And if you want to read more, there's a link there down below. Okay, now the concept of radio broadcasting would not exist without its audiences, without all of you lovely people. Many stations and their programs are tailored to a wide variety of different demographics. So RAJAR, which stands for Radio Joint Audience Research, was set up in 1992 to align, design and operate a single audience measurement system for the British radio industry, serving both the BBC and the licensed commercial stations. They are responsible for setting the research specification, the awarding of the research contracts to third-party suppliers, and the overall quality control, management, and the delivery of the service. The chief executive and the research director, so the big guy, oversee the day-to-day operations. And more about that on the link below. So, in this slide I shall be analysing two radio clips. The first radio clip that I will analyse is from The Ricky Gervais Show on XFM, or now known as Radio X. In the clip, Gervais, along with his two co-hosts, Stephen Merchant and Carl Pilkington, talk about their worst experiences at the cinema, with Merchant going into detail about a horrific experience that he went through during a screening of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, in which he had to move seats to escape from a woman sat next to him who was talking out loud, consuming her snacks, and making fun of the accents of the Oriental actors in that film. However, his problems still remained unsolved when he unintentionally sits next to a guy who was talking on his mobile during the entire screening. The event caused Merchant to hate the film and has refused to even think about it. The speakers in the clip use colloquial language, speaking in standard English. The three performers are from lower to middle class backgrounds and were bred in many different parts of the country. Ricky Gervais is from Reading, Stephen Merchant's from Bristol, and Carl Pilkington's from Manchester. The dialect that they are all speaking is not proper upper-class English grammar, but using everyday words like crisps and shortened terms such as phone in reference to a mobile phone. Pilkington, in debate against Merchant's viewing preferences, states that he himself gets videos, meaning video cassette tapes. Though the three men are professionals in the radio industry, there is a lack of radio jargon, as the dialogue between the three of them runs like a normal conversation, like they're in their house just having a cup of tea. The conversation is not scripted. From my interpretation, the subject of the discussion was outlined and then discussed by the three of them, each of them just adding in all their unscripted opinions. And you can also look at it on YouTube there. Now, the second clip that I'm going to analyse is from Absolute Radio, and it is commenting on the topic of sports, something that I am not a fan of. Jim Proudfoot talks about the possibility of Wayne Rooney leaving Manchester United. But Ian Wright disagrees with Proudfoot's theory. He disagrees with him, saying that he thinks that Rooney doesn't want to go. Though the two men are not professionals in the sport of football, they seem to be very familiar with the subject, and they use the jargon calmly. Like, whenever they're using these words, they are unafraid of the thought of using the word in the wrong context because they are professionals about it. They seem to know what they're on about, and it makes it seem familiar and entertaining for sporting fans who follow a certain team like Manchester United or Manchester City or Liverpool or whatever. Words like goal and other football terms have all been used. This may be an example of the Loki method, as fans will picture someone scoring a goal whenever the word is used. And it's on YouTube there if anyone wants to look at it. Now I'm going to analyse the two clips, comparing them and seeing if I can find a common goal between them. Both clips are not scripted. That's one thing. Okay? Not scripted. The subject of the discussion on both clips are outlined. Okay? Okay. But they are improvised by the broadcasters. In the Ricky Gervais clip, the three performers are on the show. They are talking and sounding like they are just having a regular conversation. No jargon included. The topic is then picked by the broadcasters as opposed to the Absolute Radio clip, which was just dictated by the current headlines. The purposes are different. Gervais and the two other guys are talking about something trivial and unimportant as a disappointing trip to the cinema where someone's on their phone. Okay, 2012, the Mayan apocalypse isn't going to go on because of that. Right? So, it's done in the purpose of entertaining their viewers, while Proudfoot and Wright's purpose of discussing Rooney's rumoured departure from Manchester United was to give their opinion on the matter and debate amongst themselves on whether or not the rumour is actually true. The tone of the two clips are different, with Gervais's piece being both a mixture of like real life and comedy converging together. As Gervais and Merchant are known as stand-up comedians, while Pilkington is unintentionally perceived to be a comedic presence. So if you watch like Idiot Abroad, he is just being made up to look like a complete fool, even though he didn't want to do it. And in that piece, Gervais and Merchant make jokes that drift away from the subject matter, but it still becomes linked to it. The Absolute Radio piece, however, is more focused on the subject of football and does not divert from its main subject at all. The time of the Ricky Gervais clip is 4 minutes 3 seconds as they talk about the subject for a long time, while the Absolute Radio piece is 1 minute and 9 seconds. So that's pretty quick. That's because the presenters stay on topic and seem to have a clear understanding of their responses to each other's answers. The dialogue differs in both pieces, with the Ricky Gervais piece and the Wayne Rooney piece using colloquial language uttered from their own dialects of their separate counties. They used standard bloody English words that many of the underclasses use every day. The Absolute Radio piece, however, uses an acceptable range of occupational jargon to prove to the listeners that the presenters are educated and understanding of the sport of football. Both of these subjects that are discussed in both pieces differ from each other, despite the fact that they are actually being aired on the same exact genre of radio station, despite the fact that XFM, or now known as Radio X, is a commercial station and Absolute Radio is independent. They are both music stations. And that was my presentation.
Well done, mate. Well done. Brilliant. Well done. Okay. That was